Welcome back to Inside Training Camp Live, presented by State Farm, and we head out to Oxnard, California to check in on the Cowboys. They had a walkthrough a little bit earlier, and the news is all about the triplets, whether or not they are going to sign the contracts that were offered to them. Ezekiel Elliott, the only one that did not show up to camp. He still has not. And we had Jason Garrett addressing the Ezekiel Elliott holdout after walkthrough.
We've been pretty locked in on what we need to do out here as coaches and players and building our football team. And again, Zeke's been a really impactful player for our team over the last 3 years, and we trust him as a guy and we trust him as a player. And hopefully, as he's getting his business squared away, he's working out and understanding the importance of being in shape and ready to go when he does come back.
All right, so we have the head coach talking about Ezekiel Elliott as we welcome Jane Slater and Brian Baldinger back. And Jane, the interesting part of what you reported this morning about the offers being in the top 5 of their positions paid is that kind of makes sense maybe for Dak and maybe for Amari Cooper. But when it comes to Ezekiel Elliott, I wouldn't take a contract that's not the highest paid. It seems like he's in a different world, and it seems like Jerry Jones, though, thinks this is a generous offer.
Here's why they think it's a generous offer, Amber. It's a generous offer when you compare him to the Le'Veon Bell situation, where they've got him as a little bit above Le'Veon Bell. As I reported last week, they believe this Todd Gurley deal is a bad deal. They don't like the way that it's structured. They're trying to reset the market, and they feel like Le'Veon Bell did that. So they believe that they have put forth an offer that they feel good about, Baldy, that they characterize as generous. It puts him in the top 5 highest paid at that position. But the rub here is the counter offers have not been such that they've been able to find some middle ground. And so that's why you're beginning to hear this talk, this notion that while they want to get the deal done, they're ready to get the deal done. They're ready to have those discussions. They're still just not close on these things. As it was described to me last week, they're far apart on everything, from the guaranteed money to the length and the years. And so I have to ask you, you've been looking at practice, Baldy. How far can this team go without Zeke, assuming, and we're just playing devil's advocate here, I've been given no indication that they fully expect this to turn into a Le'Veon Bell situation. But let's say he misses a few games this year.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about comps, and you're talking about Gurley and Le'Veon Bell, I mean, the comp to this situation in Dallas was Emmitt Smith in 1993. And they're coming off a Super Bowl win, and Emmitt was as big a part in that triplet and what they did in that first Super Bowl win. And they started off the next year thinking they could go pretty far without Emmitt until they were 0-2. And then they got a deal done quickly. And so who knows how far it goes, but that's what negotiations are. You start with the comps, Gurley, Le'Veon, and then, Ezekiel's side says, we want more. We deserve more. We've outplayed our contract, and it goes back and forth. I was, this is where they're at right now, and there's a lot of time between now and September 8th.
Hey, Baldy, I have a question for you. I want a Baldy's breakdown on what this offense would look like with Ezekiel Elliott, because the Cowboys talk a great game, and I understand they can't give up their position. They say, hey, we're prepared to play the season without him. Hopefully we'll get something done. But let's be real, Baldy. Without Ezekiel Elliott, what does this offense look like?
Well, 2 years ago when he was suspended for the first 6 games, Amber, the Cowboys were 3-3. They made a late run, once he got into a groove, put together a 5-game win streak at one point in 2017. But they were an offense that couldn't score many points. They scored 8 points in the first game against Carolina that year. 8-point offense isn't very productive in this business. You don't win a lot of games.
But if I can interject here just a little bit, Baldy, keep in mind they didn't have Amari Cooper then.
True.
They didn't have Michael Gallup, who I continue to maintain is going to be a guy that's going to surprise us this year. They didn't have Randall Cobb. And then now they've got Jason Witten back. So I do feel like at least they have some pieces there that they didn't have back then. And you also have Alfred Morris, who during that time, that 3-3, he started 5 of the games. He was averaging 4.3 yards to carry. So you do have some other pieces here that didn't exist during that 1 year.
They don't have Ezekiel's swag.
I agree with that.
And there is a presence on the field, in the huddle, within the Frisco and the Star, and game day and how you defend this football team when 21 is back there.
Jane, I have a question for you. Do you sense, you have your finger on the pulse of that team, do you sense concern, maybe nervousness among the players and the management that maybe this holdout does go well into the season or even all the way throughout the season, or are they not quite at that point yet?
I don't believe they're at that point yet, Judy. Now, could they get to that point? Absolutely. But I think what this feels like for me, having covered this team, it feels like the DeMarcus Lawrence deal. When DeMarcus Lawrence and Jerry Jones, we saw it playing out in the press. David Cantor's agent was putting stuff out there. Jerry and his team were putting stuff out there. And then it took David Cantor, DeMarcus Lawrence's agent, picking up the phone and saying, DeMarcus Lawrence and Steven, let's have a talk. Let's air out our grievances. And they found a way to get this deal done. They have a ton of respect for Ezekiel Elliott. I've been told they want to see a smile on his face. They want him to feel respected. They want him to get the contract that he deserves. They want that for all three guys. But they've got to make sure that these are reasonable deals. And when you're starting off with those Todd Gurley numbers that across the league, a lot of people I've talked with don't think it was a good deal. They're basically saying that's not the number we're going to start with. If you want to have conversations starting with Le'Veon Bell numbers, let's do that. But we're not going where this Gurley deal is right now. Now, is it off the table completely as we get closer and he's still not here September 1st, September 3rd as they approach that Giants opener? Perhaps. But right now it does not feel like this is an acrimonious situation. They respect that he's using his leverage. They are still trying in good faith to get a deal done. And I'm still of the opinion, just based on who I've talked to around here, that it is going to get figured out. That's what it feels like right now, Judy.
Well, they definitely don't want a Le'Veon Bell situation as we're sitting here at Steelers camp, and he sat out all of last year. They were 31st in rushing. They get 9 wins, and they miss the playoffs, and that's not what the Cowboys want to happen. But we're focused so much on Ezekiel Elliott in the running game that we're not focusing on other parts of this offense. And one big loss, in my opinion, Baldy, was Cole Beasley. The loss of Cole Beasley. Is Randall Cobb really going to be who they use in the slot? I mean, how do they replace that production that Dak went to the first 8 weeks? He was the targets leader for Dak.
Yeah, Amber, you're right. And just 2 years ago, I mean, Cole Beasley led his team in receptions, and he was the safety blanket for Dak. But the offense needs to be more explosive. They need bigger plays down the field than what Cole gave them. And Randall Cobb is here to provide more explosion. I think that when you watch Amari Cooper, his ability to beat man coverage right now, I mean, I think you're going to see a more of a deep passing team this year, bigger plays, because that's how you get deep into the playoffs, with explosive plays. That's what the Rams have had. That's what the Chiefs have had. And so I think that's the direction it's going. And I think Randall Cobb, I talked to him on Sunday. He's happy to be here. He looks healthy. He's been out here every day. He's building some timing with Dak. I think that's going to be a good thing to watch going forward here, is to see Randall Cobb's participation in his production here in his offense.
And it's hard to qualify what you're missing from Cole Beasley, quite frankly, because they moved away from him. We didn't see him a lot last year. What you are getting with Randall Cobb is a guy that is used to working with a quarterback like a guy like Phillip Rivers, and I think he's been good. Phillip Rivers, Aaron Rodgers. I think it's been good, Amber, to have him around here for Dak Prescott, quite frankly.
And the young Michael Gallup, they're a rookie a year ago. Looks like he's making a leap. He's been impressive out here in practice, and I think they have high expectations for Michael Gallup.